Kuch dharma da. The modern one engage in big way.
Dig do not me.
Cat can big way.
Dig.
Chichung down to me, Tonga big door.
Dig.
Kazame Gara, low Chong the Joke. Okay. Low Chong on the get some trouble was a joke.
Oh, I'm never seen the room to one. Young man.
Yeah, got something in Yana that very also.
Oh,
it's 10 o'clock.
teachers go get that.
Don't think you done on bits to you the tomorrow you said tomorrow down the catch of bills.
That is Marcella Yogi. So with the color content in some get your can get your.
Nothing to
Yeah.
Rola Panjer Sanje Jabar Sanje Chedan Soje Shonala Chanjo Barda Dane Jasanje Daye Renzo Jeve Sonanje Rola Panjer Sanje Jabar Shoy Asim Jen Tam Je Deva Devi Judan Dambar Jersi Senje Tam Je Dunga Je Judan Jawar Jersi Tam Je Dunga Bebe Dewa Daman Jersi Senje Tam Je Niran Chadan Nidan Javi Tanyon La Nevar Jerji Senje Tam Je Dewa Dan Devi Judan Dambar Jerji Tam Je Dunga Dan Dunga Je Judan Jawar Jerji Senje Tam Je Dunga Bebe Dewa Daman Jawar Jerji Senje Tam Je Niran Chadan Nidan Javi Tanyon La Nevar Jerji Sanje Beje Shushan Me Dom Rero Longe Nyerde Nyambande Sanje Shande Mede Bawayi Roke Nanda Shanla Jobar Sho Yedangara Rana Mandala Yandara
I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of vice, attachment, and anger. Peace crowned, mountain with perfume, strewn with flowers, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy the pure land.
also 다 같은 것들이 막 놓은 거라 참말로 잠들 다시 들리시기 요새
Awesome. 다리.
다리도 그래가지고
여러분 저기 끼리 다녔어.
그거 드라마 딱 쓰고 있지.
Yeah.
다리 동그라 다
Okay.
다리도 있었어.
Good morning to you all. Thank you for joining me in this morning's Sabbath discussion. It's so good to see you as always. And let's start our today's discussion with practice of Aryantara mantra recitation, meaning and the meditation of Aryantara. And then we continue our text reading afterwards.
그럼 검자가 때 이디인자 이 섬진의 일 땅에 엄다리 손다리 소트 마지바시 너의 샘그 땅에
그래요. 야, 어디서 나서
너한테 검자가 때 이디인지 있니 다리 있니 너의 샘 땅에 다리 또는 된 뒤다 샘 땅에 다리 또 봐나 링으로 예수 냠때니 더 그래 샘나 담을 잖아 야마치지 다가랑 또 마지바지 짠지 곰즈나 지도 마지바스 돈 하고지 셰럽지 다 잡아지라 마지바들로 곰세 버리지
So, yes, before the recitation again, and I would emphasize that while you do this mantra recitation, remember this is called the mind recitation. Mind recitation and mind repetition of the mantra, literally. So mind that repeating the mantra over and over. And this form of mantra recitation requires you only utter the mantra internally in your mind. So you hear and you're aware of that very repetition itself. And then focus on that very process of the mantra recitation. So again, like we talked about before, this is a form of meditation. Meditation is basically means that the object or the meaning that which you are so certain. Or you gain the certainty, and then you remember that or maintain the connection or the awareness that you developed by the very understanding of the meaning and or the value of that object, and then stay there, remain there. If meanwhile, of course, your thoughts will kind of it goes around, or you will have different sort of thought other than the recitation itself. When you realize that you have different sort of scattered thoughts or any wondering and a thought, then recollect it, right? Be collective and bring back your attention and refocus on the same process of mind repetition of the mantra.
Oh yeah.
de ma la mo ro ma la shang za lo shang za ro ma da re ba la mo du da ra yin ji gun se ma da re do na dam ji de ma so wa yi ye je la la nan de om da re de re so da 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 re so
어로서 다 같은 것들이 막또 매장아도 팔 연둔 시발라 다조네 파신 찍는데 준비 파신 동동식고 동화자다 안에 지지샘진도 노지직된 이즈네 다 지지샘진 시험은 로아리 찍는데 다 가정아도 마 파길 일와라 안에 로아리 하던 맞던 하마인도 로아이 덕던 로아티 자 안에 지동와라 놀 동와동 동보라 니스 동보 람마식 비강서 발와다 람식이 강서 발와 오즈네 뜻나 요라 람마식 빠지는 아주 또 소소기 오래 람식 빠지는 퍼비 강서래 어디 파트 레버더스 tani maando juchisi
저거 보면 그거 아니 저거 같은 거 아니에요?
같은 앙알
같은 거 아니야? 오늘 전부 이제
망가 마
랑리 양세 라서가
Tena, ten katsangani tene popin order schedule.
아니라 더
차송더라.
어제 포에 넣었는데 원하는 포에 넣었는데 뭐래? 포에 넣는 작업했어.
근데 딱 먼저 작업거든요. 잡을.
아 저기 손에 대지 뭐래? 잡으다가 노버시에를 띵이 되게 좋아하는데.
너다 송매. tene popin order 딱 나오고 동화동 임신.
그래서 쇼고 맞지 마가 타마 되는데 타타네.
어르지 당하다. 다더니 아니 다 법인 ordin데 가정가도 시에와 시에처를 그래서 다리 동조 법인 ordin기 토리기 연든든지 단조지 리샤토 토퍼 사모즈네 그자 때가르스고다 다 이런 거 지닐위 닐와라 니위 심진도 탐지요 아니 산일게 당런게 잘라서바트 탐질라 아니 지금 치기들스 때데 밤네 코론도 탐지기 잘라 법인 ordin가 시와주 바 길라키네 네 토리즈는 아주 함이 고파라 함이 고펑가 단주를 바 샤타고 tom네 겨와네 겨와타 쯤리 친양가 귀신나 탄네 대지 유진기 노로 리스 콤브로치나다 테마진도 유진기 노로 리 럼보치 시기소 강전도 종화따르 유진도 리스 겨와리 무길 때따라 시기 로자당 또 ki tong tang jalwa khamba sapa ki ngawjawa molum chikte chiwi to phasum so kangi longchul ki kangi longchul bi ten ye kangla longcho pa kang tang dambi longcho bi khor phasum so pa thamchi chang thakwa chenbo dambi chi de bi thinkin de jabr samo ji dad de part de jor samara
Okay, let's go to your copy translation 63, page 63. The last time, I believe that we started with giving to those not engaged in the spiritual path, right? And where we read all the way to the point we talk about, like you said, the 7 jewels of exalted being, right? And as well as the 7 good qualities of higher status. So I believe we left it here. We stopped here. And then let's continue. Just as a precious wish-fulfilling jewel provides whatever we desire, such as the food and the clothing, so should we imagine that in giving away our bodies that grant all wishes, manifest as a food, imbued with 100 flavors of clothing, and to the value of the thousands of gold coin, mentions with the 500 flowers and excellent companies who act only as inspiration, who are associated with the enjoyment, who delighted in whatever objects are to be enjoyed, and who surrounded by their possessions are reflected with everything. They are also to be imagined as being favorable factor for the accomplishment of the very highest teachings of a great people. Similarly, since the spiritual external influence is well qualified and various spiritual friends of a great vehicle, we should visualize our bodies as providing the basis for hearing, contemplating in the practice the doctrine. External factors such as spiritual of Sutra and Tantra, the internal ones such as the 7 jewels of the exalted beings, and the 3 precious trainings in ethics, meditative stability, and discriminating intelligence. Essentially, these generate love and compassion in individuals' mind stream, act as the wellspring for the awakening mind. Yeah. We should then imagine that through their practice of the 6 transcendent perfections, they reach the culmination of the 2 accumulations, Buddhahood, where their mind streams are endured with the internal delight of the perfect body of the truth. I'm not reading the right thing.
That's my 마 땡기도 되게 많어 소점이 대다가는 다 되게 인데시가 소소 야구라 단데 치스나 적당 로아를 증가도 노동 질질지 다 소소런 그 다당하고 지금 링리설로한테 기와치서 된다가 디 가르치나 노라펜도 질라펜도 바지 질라펜도 버시발라 로아를 질라펜도 로 다 람시바니나 람마시비 강석스도 람마시 강석텔라 다 안도동 딜로 니지네 단단단데 안도그니라 니로와 도졸라 쇼라 something 소소 게차 당가 많이 직던 바이나 때 게차 니틴 데벨롭트니 니 냥컴 접질라니 윈로 탑지 딩글리 토니 티 탑지 길라니 파피 노든 당단 바지니 단줄지 머리 뭐지 톱니 때라 아니지 리라 넬메와스 또당 아니지 도기 담순다 단다티 지 차정 퍼주 초바요와 티 요바 마세티 아니 그런 거 시시 용든 장사가 기위신이 천이 당단바 트니 유신이 천년도 받들라 때니 애는 노등학 람탐지 냥슬랑와라 때니 사등 람기 똑바야라 길라키고 지지 섬에 모바당 어찌니 애니 곰 뜻이고르세 다 동등도 소소게 파쇼라 점바 동동을 펜도등 삼로군이 펜도등 때리시리시 이러와라
Okay, so just make a quick summary, not summary, reflection. And so far, at this, we have been focused on the cultivation of the conventional awakening mind, the Bodhicitta. And for that, our goal is to achieve or accomplish, perfect this very the highest values of the Mahayana teaching, is the Bodhicitta. So how we can train ourselves to be a Bodhisattva, to perfect in the practice of awakening our mind, and here author offered various techniques for us to achieve our goal. So we know that basically we are trying to achieve 2 goals. That's our self goal and the purpose of ourself and the goals of ourselves, and the purpose of others and the goals of others. So in order to achieve these 2 goals, we have to practice 6 great perfections, 6 paramita. And the first practice of the 6 paramita is giving, or the generosity. And so then, so how you should practice generosity, right? Of cultivating the merits of the giving, and so the techniques being given here taught us is that we need to focus on, right? Take our body and as an object of material goods or the object of offering, and then in our mind, and we imagine or think of two dimensions of the object where we're going to make offerings. So the object where we're going to make offerings, the first is the environment or the dwelling. So that's the universe, that's the world, the physical dimension. The physical dimension is the place where all living beings, sentient beings are dwelling. And then the second, the other dimension or second aspect of this object of dimension, object of offering is that the inhabitants or the beings, living beings who living or who dwelling inside of that physical world or universe, within the universe. And so then when you look at, take the, we already did the offering to the world and how to transform it by taking our body and then through our meditation and how to transform this physical world, right, into from the miserable, undesirable world, and in our mind make it favorable, and from the contaminated and the sorrowful become very enjoyable, even enlightened. The dimension of the existence. So then here is the thing: when you look at the inhabitants, right, beings who live inside that physical environment or the world, we can divide it into all the living beings into two different categories. One is the beings who haven't yet engaged in the spiritual practice, and the beings who have already engaged in the spiritual practice, right? So now, in terms of the beings who haven't yet engaged in the spiritual practice, we have the beings are, and especially those who are born in the three low realms, namely like the hellish being and demigod and the animal, the world of the animals. So we take them mentally as the object of our offering, and through the offering and the offerings we made, we are making, and in our meditation or in our visualization, that we imagine and think of those beings are by the merits of or the power of our pure intention and the blissful spiritual the object of the offering, which is the spiritual by nature it's a spiritual power, and then able to transform those beings and instantly and free them from their respective lower dimensions of existence, and then they instantly and freed from their current lower or miserable status, and then able to become one who endured with 8 freedom and 10 favorable conditions. And so, and then even in that condition and in that status, upon receiving such a favorable body or the living condition, which is endured with marked by the 8 freedom, 10 favorable conditions, and they live in, they enjoy the longevity and and freedom and wealth and so on and so forth, and good friendship and all kinds of happiness. And then more importantly, and they are be able to have the accessibility or gain the access and to meet with a qualified spiritual teacher, authentic spiritual teacher, and through by contacting and following and taking advice from the spiritual teacher or spiritual friends, and then they'll be able to learn the knowledges of the sutra and the knowledges of tantra, and then not only be able to learn the knowledges of those two sets of Buddhist literature and collections of the wisdom, they be able to actualize, fully realize the meaning, the true meaning of the sutra and the tantra. So this is how we train ourselves to make offering. This is the mode of or the way we need to practice the generosity or giving. Again, this training is focused on it's a mental exercise, right? Because if we mentally be able to unlock ourselves, mentally be able to make ourselves truly very generous and truly ready to give whatever we're possessing, whatever we available, and then that is the literally meaning of the great perfection of the generosity.
다 대비전도 쇼지 지든지 감타이와라 맘메비 예덕 기르스 그리고 심지 소득기 디위 샘진 진일요바남 남라 리땅위 마르진트 성 예니 체크 뎀바 담버 사모시 던 대비전도 지든 이 던로 샹와 네나 칸토르와 남라 땅니 데비터 사모 대비전도 쇼지 지든지 감나 랑즈 랑튼겐나 미로와 머콤비 제니스 송와당 야양 세테라 탈름 드비 가와메바 남라 리땅위 마르진 사모 세테라 탈름 키위 갈와 땅 뎀비 머남라 리땅위 람드비 셔 켄남땅 낭기 삼비 켄탐칠 창니 마르터 사모 데브진트 야치 르브즈라 소피 돌라 남땅 남 돌라 리트땅 창르긴 데오 챔비 와르키 징컴키 네 르지니 땅 즈메 켄치 젤라 네위 탈름라 마식비 섬체남 레리랑 리 창와리 땅위 아르젠트 드퍼 제와땅 스파 와르마도나 네위 섬체남 라양 땅와 데비진트 사모 어떤 jorta드니 진리시 거라.
So, yes, on the page 64 in the middle, it says, then, in the same way, think as before, that sentient beings, including the 36 types of hungry spirits residing throughout the 10 directions, also attend the immaculate delight of the perfect body of truth by virtues of our having given away our bodies. Next, we should repeat the meditation with respect to animals, whether they dwell in the oceans or in the scattered across the land throughout all the realms of the universe. Then we should think likewise of giving our bodies to all human beings in realms throughout the 10 directions of the universe, those living on the 4 main and the 8 subcontinents, those born with the freedom of movement and those without such a freedom, as well as those who lack the opportunity. To accomplish the path of enlightenment in their present lifetime, Then, in giving our bodies to those people who do not have the opportunity to achieve the path of enlightenment, to a path of the liberation in this lifetime, we should imagine that through their fulfilling all the external and internal factors for accomplishing the path of liberation, they gain the same results as described above. Similarly, we should also give our bodies in their entirety to each sentient being, abiding among the 6 kinds of gods of the desire realms, such as the 4 great kings, the 12 kinds of gods of the form realm, from those of the Brahma family to those of the great result, as well as those of the 4 status of formless realm, who have not entered the path of liberation. We should imagine that this God achieved the same goal as described before. We should also imagine giving in a like manner to beings in the intermediate states between death and rebirth.
Oh yeah. Dan di dodro di sana sepi korlo nonanda sebab tendri nyomut kesem ge jangan terkiri goni sepi sebab tende yang lagi goni korwa la korwi kanzak tu sigur. Ta korwa korwi kanzak te nyomut kesem ge jangan terkiri to thome marik pe ngane chadangi chi chadangi gi gane ne ti lesa ler nga ta namsi chanjure dori tikinde la khordam gudela karojna nyelwa chi yeda chi tandro chi 미지 사만 인도 사진이 로리드지 아니 텔레 신이 바르도와 다 바르도와데 지당 인천로지나 지 타랑보 맞죠 이마 시거랑 쇼도도 종나 덴데게 교환랑도 그 탐직 그 탐질라 가르치기 노바치 가르치 요르즈나 아주 대화도 받던 능음도 아주 찍바레 차정다 때 요르데 이나한테 제마지 용특 메다 따텔라 가르 사무 가르던 탐지 창고의 시견당 능극견 니트 편수 속바고요. 다 시견 가르즈나 리위신인 창이 등담바 파마 정보 아니 쪽 편수 속바 텔라트네 지금 노트 몽출라 속바 진도고 농초지와도 시견이 능극견 편수 속바 가르고자 코랑니 그 질란 파페 노르들라 속베 다바 등담바 소소고 정도기 티와 존리라 속바 텔리게 중고차 트레로 속바 텔리게 samlo denkeji ina ane meter rembe chni shiken to nangkin thamjila teni rori kandachi na te jawata tabo mili teni marsitong ko chni rembe chni lamla jang chni thar ane rembe satang lam to pa kom soni kompong to bersebar shochi zine sa ta samlo ro dor dina te chitang gor sira teni yongor shochi dadangi li dela teni sape gewi chawa kang chongwa de rori thamche dewa do pa chipa dingam do chipa ba te dewa dopala dewi ge karchi yong dingi ge ka ba demba jila samlo tang ti nga ne chi o ta gewi shi chen da nang ge chen ta changwi go ne rembe da jo ki mali rembo thob ne ne omur do bar sang yor so chi ge ten ji samlo tang ta ti chet pa ngo jina ti chet jim ba tang go ti chet tong go tong ai na tang ba da so so ge ne ling ri sim long chu karzi che na chi gewi chewa jong sin ti chet tang jang na tellang 오더나 따텔라 편수 토토로 된자다 뜻배 같이 뭐와세데 개와강지어도 호와이나 아주 ям수동라 특파하나 ям수만큼 버트 감고 말 수상마기 버트 개와도 로데 그때마도 개와제나 오와마제나 네 디파로로 컨트롤라 송바 또나 매화차로 됐다 개와 가르치나 소소기 요거지 링을 있으면 그 샤와카를 요거지나 들람성 심지 탐지기도 농어 토와이나 소수상마기 버트 니트 거리스 똑같이 모르지 단 로아르 기트다 따따가르리 티낭나 요트르다 무스기 데시 jamogojira.
Okay. So we are needed to As part of our, again, the training of the generosity, we needed to learn and to master the techniques and as it described in the textbook. Yeah. So in short, and I think that so we do, and the first step we need to take is to understand of our reality, right, and fully understand the conditions in which we live, and then look around and then checking to see the very physical world and the beings around you and their conditions, right? And then their status. And so this requires us to, in order to really fully have that develop the genuine and absolute detachment-free generosity. The generosity that is absolutely detached or free from attachment. And that we do need to understand more deeper the context of this practice requires a much more deeper understanding. Or in other words, so the reason that which support us to be very generous and take our body as the object of offering and offer to the others, we do have to understand much more philosophically or spiritually, much more broader and deeper. This means that we need to think about the starting point of the life, or the very origin of the life, or the existence of the how the life comes to become. Life become the life become a reality, and what kind of status and what involved. So this requires us to understand the 12 links of interdependent origination. 12 links of interdependent origination, meaning that we must think, oh, I am here and in such a condition, and so in the living the world, formed or conditioned in such a way, in such a manner, right? And so do others, and so those the visible and invisible, or those direct or indirectly, and so distance and the nearby, the beings, whoever you can see or you can imagine, all of them, and to be in such a way or live in and or have to deal with their current status, and in both in the physical from physical world perspective and the experiential perspective. They are here and sort of being conditioned in such a way, limited in such a way, is because the starting point of each unenlightened being is because of the ignorance. Okay? So the 12 links of interdependent origination is first is ignorance. Because of ignorance, and then you give it that the mental volition and occur, right? Ignorance triggers the mental volition, and then there's so and then the name and the forms and then go on and on, so all the way, and so then you born, and then the agents kicked in, and then the death took in place, and then you die, and then you end up in the transmigration states, and then you reborn again. So that's how the 12 links of interdependent origination sort of cycling, right? You are just like, so you are in this way, and happens the experience your own existence in such a way, and so do others. And your physical environment also is taking place in such a contaminated, imperfect shape or condition, is because of the ignorance and then the mental formations, right? And the attachment and the context and attachment and so on and so forth. So we know this is a reality, and we can make it a little bit shorter. Let's say we are here. I'm existing, right? This is my reality, and this is the world in which I'm living. And then others I know or I can think of also that living in this shared same world, and their conditions are also is imperfect. So why? And then the answer is that they're here, I'm here, and because of due to the as a production of the karma and the afflictive emotions. So afflictive emotions and is aversion, attachment, and ignorance, right? And so that's how the samsara or this repeated pattern of life and then death is the very reality that we have to deal with. And so within this samsara, we know we have a better, right? Beings who are living relatively better, such as like divine being, and in terms of the material possessions and the dimensions or the abbots or the court or whatever they live, right? The lifespans and the appreciation of all the enjoyable luxuries, whatever, and that they are greater, but however, still is limited and still imperfect. And then you go down and look at the other beings, right? Demigods, again, it's powerful, but still it's restrained or conditioned to some, is very much conditioned in limited and in a particular framework. And now you come into the human world. We know how it goes, right? And then animals, and then the hungry ghost, and the hellish being. All those are, and it's on the same sort of chain of death and birth repeatedly, right? And so the bardo or the transmigration stage, we know anyone who die and. So within the length of 49 days, they have to reborn, right? They have to reborn and restart everything. So this tells us that we all, it doesn't matter the forms or the categories and the living dimensions or physical locations and the status of their life or the qualities of their life. We all shared one same throughout the universe. Right? We all share the same aspiration. That is, we do not want suffering. All we want is happiness. And so this happiness again is a condition. Has to be produced. It has to be produced, and the happiness is the production of the cause, right, and a certain cause, and that cause is involved with both external and internal. So the causes of internally, and the causes externally. Externally, the cause of happiness is that, is a virtuous action, virtuous mind, a virtuous speech. But to be a virtuous person and to accumulate the causes of happiness, the virtue, and first, and you have to, and as a part of the external condition, you do need find a way and to meet the authentic spiritual teacher, a spiritual friend, right? And then, and at the same time, you also have to have a sufficient and good karma to born in the family where the parents are very decent person and kind and very loving. And then, of course, you have also need the very good friends, loyal friends, and a decent friend, and spiritually very involved, dedicated, earnest spiritual friend. So these are the external the key external conditions that now we have to cultivate, and then internally, right, as the conditions which are secure ensure us to appreciate the happiness is the one with we talked about in the last couple of classes. That is the 7 jewels of exalted being. Right, it's the 7 jewels exalted being. We know once you have those these qualities, and then you can definitely will gain the form of a human body, and then that will reward with 8 freedom and 10 favorable conditions. And with the by having obtained the precious human body that endure with the 8 freedom and the 10 favorable conditions, and then you can pursue in the path of enlightenment, right? And then you can move on, right? And you can have the ability and to engage in a broad and also profound spiritual practice, and such as the one we talked about, we are discussing now here. So like how you can imagine the understanding and taking your body as the object offering, and then directed this body and by the spiritual and the power of the faith, and transform it into various kinds of material goods or the need and forms of things, and then give it to all the beings who are needed or accordingly, right? And so being born as to gain the precious human body, and in a basically in a general sense that we will be so much so privileged to be able to hearing the teachings such as Four Noble Truths. And upon to hearing the Four Noble teachings of Four Noble Truths, then we can cultivate it, and we can examine, we can analyze this, and then truly understand those 4 truths, right? And then we can we will be entitled, or will have the ability, and to pursuing our the state of liberation and the admonition for it. So all this requires the one thing that that is we need to practice start our practice by generosity. So generosity again is like we talked about how you can, right? What is available to you, right? What are the things that you own it, right? You can give it. Like at the time of our each session of our spiritual discussion practice, we do the dedication. Right? And dedication is so important. Why? Why? Because dedication means you give away. Like the things you accumulated, right? The titles, the possessions, the knowledge, and the material wealth, whatever skills and qualities, whatever you as soon as you accomplish or you gain it, then you immediately give away. You give away, or you direct it to the benefits of others. That way, you will detach yourself from those qualities, and then you can turn anything that you accomplished, you own, and you achieved as the true tool, right? A genuine tool, a real tool, and then to serve others. So therefore, we all the time we do this dedication, and that's also why dedication is so important. So I give you an example why it's so important. In the metaphor, let's say, whatever you give the virtuous action, you accumulated, you accomplished, it's like a drop of the water, right? If you take the drop of the water and put it into the ocean, the body of the ocean, you know that a drop of water will never ever dry out, right? Well, keeping increasing or expanding. So similarly, if you take whatever is the knowledge, skills, and the merits, and you accomplish and you give away right away without any attachment to it or reserve it for your egocentric self, then that's how you like as if you take the
It's
drop
11
of water
o'clock.
and put it back to the body of the ocean. And one of the very important reasons for us we must do the dedication is that if you do not do the dedication, then according to the literature, it says that at the time when you are experiencing very furious, right, a furious anger or a strong rage, right? Whenever you experience the rage or the furious anger, and then they say that very mental experience of the destructive or violent experience will destroy whatever the virtuous action you have accumulated. So therefore, and make a dedication is like you put in the safety box and lock the end, and then will stay forever there. So I guess our object of the offering is the material world, the universe, the physical and the dimension in which beings are living. That's the first part of the first object of our offering. And the second is the all beings, all kinds of beings. Classically, typically in Buddhist cosmology, all beings are. When we say all beings, it means that the six realms of the beings. And I'm sure you already know that we have discussed what are the six realms that beings are, so I'm not going to repeat them. So yes, so that's the object of your offering. The thing which you can take and to be offered, right, and use as the thing as object that you're going to give. That's your body, right, and that's your body. Yes.
Otter, they tata Jimbatella, Jimba number Jizini. Jimba number the Tamboting as Sansang Jimbata, and Mutatende Lee Soshik, Mantang, Ketang, Setang, or Tong Solos of Jimbatre. Niwa de Jimbate Chi Jimba, Chi Jimbata Soso with Yundin Kang Yopatin, she Yundin the Janla Sapate, Chi Jimba. Then the Magic Bijimba said that she Janla Jitramela, so was the Jitrama course of the nigger. Solid Jawala Spot, Magic Bijimba. And the Shambi Jimba said, Jana Dekit on Damba, Karagachini, and the Pena Social, that be Mijil like Kachanyambo and the Koranla, they want to the Pena Dong Zumraj, then the Pashotella, they kit to and Soso will lead Pechet on this Pashotella, they kit to Tawena, the Jimba, to the Shambi Jimba. That's all the Jimba and it's so intimate songs on Chukuma, Jimba number Jote, Jinji or the Homa and the Sanjum the Nigeronla. Gelong Chilape, Hatching Jimby Joker, the Jimby Longcho, Timki Disney, Jimbatana Longcho Jungor. Tensa and Gelong Chilape, Coach and the Choni, Gauss on the Segi Tongo Marawan, Sony Mara Citizen, and Sangila, Taya and Hasan Roshinity, Coachoni, Sunira Hamad, that Georgine. Omani and the Tower Raptamashon is on the Copeco join, the Rapta Jonin, Taran Segi, Sonira Hamad, the Peco at Calcine. Natural Jimba Tango Martin, Jimby Dew, Michigan, Namaris. And the Jimby Deotang, Jimba Tanga, Chicago Marcarci, Jimba Cartangazine. Take a Marcormani Chitsamani, Roberto Guyomar, so much or Sony, Chikarason, Kakomidon, Miduzola, Don Zimskichin, as Semgutani, Tonanti, Don Zimdanti, with the Chijimbatans, or Chijimbatan, Tin Dew, not Chongres. But the echo Gelon taking shut in the Nochikan, Chichi Tapshitan, Chetus on the Kakomidazula bed that Don Zumdanchi when a part Jimbatan, Yamber Moradan, Tendegichin, but didn't Jimmy Long Chicken till Tinny couldn't be Lonchon is Lord George. Or Tinsani Jimba said, Jimba number so Jimmy Paro de Shimbala. Sebitong Tongsum, the Chaksum Tongsum baby manga, Sosol and Zimbi Dingy, say Chapat, the Doni, or Patang Sasona, that Jimby partitions on. 당 안으로 다다 이 강식이나 동안 리니 정도 주로 롱주 강도 좀 앙앙앙 이제 니 더도 좀 더라 어떻게 착비심 근이 좀 더라 때 동투와이나 따지면 버렸어
Okay, let me approach this very topic of generosity of giving from different set of teaching. We can say that the practice of generosity or giving they can be approached or can be practiced through 4 different ways. Or in other words, there are 4 different techniques which helps us to accomplish it, or reach our goal and the perfection of the generosity. So the first generosity in this case is that the generosity of the material wealth. So generosity of material wealth, which refer to, for example, if you happen to have more than enough food that you eat, so you give it the poor and the needs, those who are hungry, right? And if you happen to have the medicine and somebody else is ill by experiencing headache or whatever, and you give it to them. And if you have the extra house or a room wherever you can, and then share with those who need it. And or the transportations and anything else. So it deal with the material form of material thing, material goods. So that you are entitled to give or to share and to do it. So that is the first form of generosity, the generosity of the goods or material wealth. And the second form of generosity is the generosity of the Dharma. The generosity of the Dharma referred to, so up until you accumulated and cultivated enough spiritual knowledge, in this case the Buddha Dharma, right, and the Buddhist teaching, and then you should share with others, right, and help others and give them whatever you find as suitable, and you find as might helpful, you find that it's useful and practical and meaningful. So share whatever the Dharma, the knowledge of Buddhist teaching you have, and give that away. So that is the second form of generosity. And the third form of generosity is the generosity of protection. And in Tibetan, we call it Minjuba. So Minjuba is make others not feel, not to be scared. Okay, not to be scared of. So help others do something about and make others not be scared of, right? And that is also the generosity. So here, technically, I think we can translate this generosity is the generosity of protection. So, for instance, somebody is experiencing fear or scared of or worried about the things that may happen to them, right? And suffer due to this any form of fear. So you go ahead and either you can give an actual physical and protection, or you can sort of help out and figure out, help him or her, them, and figure out how to overcome the fear, right? And so make them not to be scared of or worried about what may happen to them. So this is this very action of make others free from the fear is the third generosity, the generosity of protection. And then fourth one is the generosity of kindness. The generosity of kindness is that so you bring the joy to others. Right? You find a way, right, and find a way by the appropriate the means, and so you give others, and that makes them feel that they're very happy and content and feels fulfilled and feels belonged. Right? That's the fourth generosity, and the generosity of kindness. So this is, for example, that the like you want to just in the general, very at a very basic level. We walk in and on the street, right? And you see somebody is approaching and walking towards you, all right? Even if you can't do anything or you don't need to do anything, but just genuinely, sincerely smile to that person, greeting him or her. So that is a form of the generosity of kindness. Because by sincerely and genuinely smile unto that person, it will make the person give the sense of and somehow is something is nice, and give them give them feel happy, the sense of happiness, and make them feel very nice about it. And yes, so those are the four and different kinds of generosities, and but let me here again say something that the generosity is very, very critical, and that's the first step of first practice of the six perfections. And back to Buddha's time, right? And so there was a bhikkhu, a fully ordained monastic personnel, the monk, bhikkhu, who in us tradition and back to Buddha's time, monks in the monastery, you don't have a kitchen, so there's no way you can cook, right? The only way you get a food is you go out, right? You're asking for the Allah, right? You're asking for the donation, ask the people at the time of the consuming the food, and you go out and asking people donate. There happens one monk and who just having the difficulties and cannot get the food, right? So whenever he approached the people and it is either most times he can't get the food, and the people something happens, he just cannot get the donation. The food to be donated to him. So he is most times he's hungry, and then he complained. He come to the Buddha, and he complained. And the Buddha says, "Buddha, I don't know why." And while I was a layman back in my village, was in the village, a villager in my hometown, and I was very poor. I just don't have nothing, and I'm very naturally I was very having very hardship, had a very hard life. But I thought after I become a monk, I will be so fortunate, and by the Sangha order, right, and the Sangha community, I will at least not worry about food. But this tradition of begging the food and from door to door at the time of the meal. Somehow it didn't solve this my problem of the lack of food, or have the problem enough food to eat. So what's wrong with me? Then Buddha, of course, from his the omniscience, right? So Buddha envisioned, see what happened to this man, what he did in the previous lifetime. So then Buddha advised him and told him, say, the reason in both cases, either while you were a layperson or you are a monk now, you have this difficulty to get the food, is because in your previous lifetime you did not practice generosity. You did not give it. You did not give others. So that's what the reason why you have this trouble. And then then what should I do? And the Buddha said, then just go ahead and practice generosity. And then monk said, look, I have nothing other than my ropes and my bamboo ball, and I have nothing to be offered and to give to others. Buddha said, no, you do. you just go and get a clean water, right? And from the stream and bring to the farmers who in the field or the street on the ways where travelers pass by and give them water. And just genuinely, sincerely, with a smile, and give it to them. Say, would you like to drink the water? And then it's free for you. So you make it this way, and this is a very, but it's gotta be very sincere and genuine, and with this kindness and a smile on your face. So then you will overcome this trouble of a lack of financial support. So then this monk did, and that changed his the course of his life. So yes, so the lessons and we can learn from this story is that the generosity is really important. Whatever you have here or you receive here is in fact indeed is what you have been giving in the past. So when we talk about giving, again, one thing we must keep in mind is that giving or to be generous, yes, to be a generous person and to accomplish the perfections of generosity, it doesn't mean that you fulfill everybody's material desire, right? You make everybody rich and everybody is absolutely content. No, that's not what the Buddhist the meaning. That's the literature here in Buddhist teachings suggest. So the Buddhist literature teaches the generosity is you truly develop the mind. In that mind, whatever you have or how much you own, you just have no any attachment to it. You're completely detached from the things which you own, and then you are in the position or you are ready to give and whatever you own to others, non-attachment and perfectly detached from anything that you own, including your body, and so that is the true meaning of the perfection of generosity.
Oh yeah, that come on to George Leona, no.
So now we have about 15 minutes, and I would like to take questions.
I have a question.
Yes, good.
What's the difference between virtue and merit?
Okay.
So you can give away your virtue to everyone, but you're part of everyone. But as far as merit, can you give merit away? It seems you need merit to become a Buddha.
I see. Okay. All right. George, Viva Sonam Sayagi, Nido, as a only Sonam Day and Vivala Jibataya, Viva Go as a Tios, Miss Sonam Day or Jibataya story. At the Chesson Yosadeta, Viva Ramazina, Ninipo, Chixu Gan, Jibati, Sabitoni, where you are the Sonam Jati, and where you are rest. Sanjita Maibani, Rankin is the Sonam Kanism Mova, Kanis Tegas.
Sonam said so giving devolatini Jungi, Devaterwa. Oh, Deva Sapi, devolatini Jungi, Devater, Deva, they keep the pa Jimbaterada. When the Choranga Kali Jamni Sabi Mut Kali Jamni Legacia. Legacy with Devote Carriero, Telatinazo, Mujirapora. Around the only on top of Mujirapora, Mut Soso Jimbatanga, Soso on Chasang Euro. Tinazin the Soso give us up with Devotella, Sonum Sako, Sonum Sada, Sonum with Niwatel, Jala Jincho, Jimbatangana. A teen devote need the Dichi Niwachi or D Gesate and Tam Simson de Kidnabatang, Islamic Zetambatang, the Konguton. More enough teacher than me put in Sero. Jane said, what the Sero. Ah, giving devote, give what you devote to Sonum. Give you Sonum said, oh, this Sonum turn. 소소 토피 게스트 봐 절로 당하더라.
对对，说明当中啦，给我当中，给我就把当中的给我的就把这个当中的是。
gewa tela te ni dewo chungaro ani gewa tela te geti getsa dewo tang chiwa simchi tonji ta pena kali ja nge vida lega china nge te kali jawara kali jamne nga ngu chirara kali jane ngu yote ngi o kali ja yote tang ngu ro bit chama janji to ngo chona ta ta niga ngo chara getsa tang sonum niga ngo tang
Oh yeah, that's it. Yes, George. So first of all, we have to know the relation between the virtue and the merits. Virtue is like a cause, merit is like the result. Okay? And so you bodily, verbally, mentally, and then have that virtue, anything that you engage in and or taking place by nature is the virtue, right? And then that very virtue is the cause of course, we're talking about it here is the positive thing, right? And is it as soon as that very virtuous mind or the verbal action and body actions operating, right? And put it started in a motion, and then so that very virtue, which is the power, right, and which is a positive action, right, and that very action is taking you towards something we call the merit, or it helps you to produce something that's in the good outcome. That good outcome is happiness. Okay? Make you feel joyful, make you feel entitled, make you feel empowered and entitled and feels happy and joyful and feels good about it. So anything that makes you feel in such a way, right? And empowered and joyful and entitled and the sense of contentment, that is the merits. So now, how you give the merits, right? And as a result of the virtue, or both. Virtue, when you say, at the moment, as soon as you started want to do something, when you direct this very action of your mind or the body as a speech, and say, I want to benefit others, or I want to go and help others. So that very virtue actually is started to become the generosity. Why? Because this is aimed for the benefit of others, right? So that way it is transformed. It's already been given, directed to others' benefit, or it's connected to others' well-being. So therefore, even though it's an action, it's a motion itself, the virtuous motion is still forming, sort of taking place, right? And it's on the process of the operation, right? But because it's motivated to and helping others or achieve something given to others, so therefore you are right at the very moment of you taking the action. That's been you're on the course of the generosity. But of course, at this point, haven't yet accumulated the merits. The result haven't yet to be born, right? To be produced. So up onto, and you accomplished your action, right? And so you receive the actual result, then that is become merit. I'll give you a simple example. So you say, I want to go and to take a job, right? And I'm going to help others. All right. So now you get out there and you go, and you prepare yourself and you go to work, right? And then so over the time, so starting from the moment you leave, you have this thought at home, and then all the way to you finish your day and task, right? Your job, and then somebody give you the paycheck, right? Now, this paycheck is the result of your virtuous action. That's the intention. You want to help out others, and then now the result is money. So this money is the power. The money is the strength. The money is the entitled. Something is entitled. This money is something that you can physically make others to be happy, right? So now that money belongs to you, right? It's your own merits. It's the merits that you accumulated. So you have the right and decide where to use and how to give and to whom you want to give to. So this way, if you look from this point, you can see that you can definitely give your virtue and also the result of that virtuous action and the merits to others. Is that clear?
啊，请坐。
请坐。
公我从来就开始刚才呢generosity bukan tongba dong untuk
Jumpa.
okay jumpa ini tengah tambu engine ini jual tambu di engine jual ini bukan jual ini bisa. Okay, so I actually have several questions about this topic because I feel like today generosity has become more like something very rare and like that we idealize when it should be something very natural in our society. So because of that, my first question, I have a couple of questions, is like how do you measure, especially for material wealth, because I live like in a city where there's a lot of homelessness. So in terms of measuring material wealth, when is it that we can give material, like when do we, how do we decide which type of generosity to practice and which time? That's like the first part of that question. The second part of it, for material wealth specifically, I often, if I'm going to a store and I see a homeless person and they seem, kind of friendly, I'll be like, excuse me, sir, do you need it? You want me to buy you anything? And often if they want something like a food, I'll get it for them because I think, okay, that's like a real need, right? Or that's the way I try to fill that. But I'm a student, so I don't really have like an unlimited supply of money to constantly ask every single person. So how do I decide like which type of generosity to practice at which time?
유 간데시가 기초 간데시가 아니 술라 아니 김바 간데시 타와니 다 김바 원년을 도우요레스 나라웨나 나라 부우치게 아니 다또 페이지가 통해 상상이 김바라 차차나 또 저와데 그 진성 매조 낭 매조 아니 남미 매조 되게 나가 가는데 전부 전부 뒤로 잡아서 사야 통해 주기 통해 아니 땅에 개발 상과 땅에 개발 오늘 통소로 아니 개발 상고로 아까 별안에 말마다 보이는 당 나라 수수는 계속 보내니 바라라 되게 다양하게 하는 비어 말에 이나 좀 바탕에 그 냐면 제고도 내가 그들시라는 간을 쓰고 그랬어. 근데 맞아서 총코나 되라 침바이나니 티요 자 통해 매주라마 되게 수수라는 그 벤조근에 당대 두와데 티요비나 수수나 벤조근 미바 아니 거다 세지요 바로 보이지 어디에 어떻게 되나 소소소요 대상 마포 받은 상마 되거든요. 이 아니 정말 당고래 당나 아니 유디당 참바 지바나 원이 도바 되게 냐면 되지.
네. 당당 가서 지 미참하고 말아줄라. 가 선비 땅니 벽에 땅 마타와 있나 가서 방 오직 때에 나가랑도 멍쳐 데려와 줘버려. 니들 밀들이 짐바 땅난 디 꼬치기 짐바 땅 잡수파도 짐바 땅 그런 거 지금 천년 정도 권이 도외가 제 제바 제고를 텔라 무스기 짐바 다 짐바 땅 모다 로고 짐바 원이 지 차트고요 말 그런 거 뭐일 자위 뭐일 그런 거 뭐돈 자위 뭐가데 그런랑이 그 같이다. 오늘 지동 선비 땅에 땅진에 짐바 땅서 지동 안에 지금 갑동 참바즈네 선지 디동 탐바지 소소가 탑바다 와 지요나 배낭 알아서 밤에 롱초 많이 봐 소소랑 알아서 네버때 고한테 알아서 롱초 고요데 디 한친이 요나 ngazo ngene china ngewor china jiktin digo ngazo goate ta machit choyirangla khalas jaksa sa tang dasa yogo jula tulu trombuzi koyen tang ngazo ngewor ko tere teli panchen ni tapina chitam michula nyata chi ma to goyo mare machi chi na nyasa kambu chi ma to goyo mare ngazo be kambu the bit mangbo ta be chi ni ma cho kamba sum jinga ta ka la be sacha ma da lang de che do ngon ta pame long choro o tende ge pame long cho ge tewa yo na ta de jamba la ngon ji pen to ka ji pen to de de la pen to ju 탑 kiu ji ni pen to yang ngazo ji jo ji pen to go yi ge se ba tasum nam de na re pa sho de la ye tong di man chon ba yi na yang de yong gu yo ma ta ka zong ma na aya de wa mu ji ba tang de mu ji ba tang sa di pa so no ko de mu de do ba re che tang ne ko de sen na sho ro de ji shang ji sen ba che tong li jin ba tang de shi sen ba la ni是用的中国的上东流那就怕金把当的用的地外有的，可能第三那时候用个呢，人民流的目的要的冲嘛脱的，但这地当参把过过的，怕说的了，这当米么才当的，所干着就通话呢，得了那这个通中就有的咱的经营嘛，哦，但可以叫过来是你可别看根本是是用嘛，可但可的这样样子，可能米这个逻辑个样啊怕，甚至个节呢，米的逻辑个那可让人个。강남 모보즈 체진이 되게 다 홈레스 차다 홈레스 차르기 차던 것들 파치데 영문나 그런 거 배미시 그런 거 지당 만들어 왔대 되게 타만하고 태어나서 뭐 되게 지금 남이 된 거야 영문나 그런 거 지금 난난날라서 봐 영문나 그런 지금 자청이들서 카드라서 뭐 되게 등을 강을 모보즈 그건 에 그런 데 지금 만져봐도 봐도 그런 징거 그런 게라 선지 지르 당다 받는 지르 고 데이터 안에들 영지게 끝내는这那这个全部是这个要嘛的，从种子所属的你做这个这头那样个，这嘛头外那得了设备当的通中的，结束嘛这里得了开始当的嘛这，我得你去头外那，但这个是什么的？你怎么了？那这东西呢？它，用那个用啊，就车上老人搭过子呢，家里好了啊，就得光把有嘛，人别就从的人别光把呢，光别多的呢，刚用头外的，啊就当不你那个就马里去送啊就。말은 저 뒤든지 기를 같이 시시게 말 샤도 도도지 근데 비르비 장제네 아주 까절라와 당안에 고지고 하다 시온데 장하다 로야 당디 발서 비르비 아주 컴페션 용어로 텐자 강답가나 조는 곰비 돕데 소소들이 통하나 어때 양지 단단한 거 들지 못데 내가 마오는 게 들지라 펜토 중이 니와 담지는데 펜토고 펜토에 나랑 타실라 무 방고 조조 무자에나 무 펜토사데 루 마토에나 코랑양 타만도 못해나 데리라 람로가로 손을 만들거래 때 많이 봤대 펜토나 간다 펜토 본도 되게 그런 거 яб종라 때니 яб종 때리 고 강을 용사때 간다지 까고 어디 탑신로 땅토에나 펜토 소바시가 되었어 어떤데 지금 지금 그 제땅 시합시던 게 내당로 된지 그랬어 조 파쇼티 яб종하고 яб종라 하고네 때라 펜토나 간다지 펜토고 때 르바땅 담비고네 배주 땅네 펜토나 펜토요스 samgdu sta nge samse tende jigre se so sorang ni lo mila de tharang ge so sorang ni namsu pejo tang ka chi gore se ti tang chamba jine
Okay. So here's the thing. We have essentially have to know that generosity or giving has to be carefully executed. We must execute this very virtuous action and generosity according to the time and the space and the person or the objects or the events, and so then we must assess the suitability of your very action of generosity. Because generosity essentially from Buddhist point of view is not aimed to fulfill everybody's material desire. That's clear, that we have to know. Right? But rather, as a practitioner, spiritual practitioner, is aimed to help you overcome the attachment to your possessions and your material, whatever you own it, you're entitled to. So the detachment, right? Have no attachment to your whatever your possessions, right? and to be free from the possessiveness, right? To be free from the attachment, right? And to the things that you own it, right? And have no free from the possessiveness, right? And that is the key. That's what we talk about. Why the Buddha or Buddhist teachings suggest we need to practice generosity is because if without this practice, you can see that there are cases often people have no really people just don't know how to set up the limits of how much they can own or they should own, right? And or they should control. So to be generous means that to be aware of the limits, right, and the suitabilities, right, of the material goods that you are going to own it, in order to become absolutely indulgent, right? There are people who have essentially we only need, for example, as far as the quality of the life or the necessity of the life concerned, we do have to have healthy food, right? We have to have the house which can protect us from the right and the harms and the bad weathers, right, and so on and so forth. So, and then also we need clothes to protect maintain our health. So those are the essential things we do need it. But very often you will see people have excessively, right, the food. They just can't eat it. They can't consume it, but they have it. Then the West become wasteful, but they don't give it to others. Then they're not needed. They can't consume it. And so that's the problem. That's the indulgence, right? And also house. We do need a house. So the purpose is to protect ourselves, right? Keep ourselves warm or cozy and right, feel the healthy. But often people have not just one house and two and three and more, and they just dedicate their life and to build houses all around and had nothing really and spiritually done. Now that's of course we know an attachment, right? And it doesn't really benefit others and not necessarily also benefit them because they cannot really spontaneously living in the 3 or 4 or 5 houses, right? So and then clothes, right? If you have excessive amount of clothes, that's what's the purpose for, right? And other than attachment, indicates that the house, how much attachment do you have for the clothes, right? So this is the problem, and so in the case of a Buddhist practice of generosity, we needed to find a way to avoid this kind of indulgent behavior, right? And make sure the things we own has quality, has a good purpose, and meaningful, and has a decent value in it. And but now come back to the giving. You have to be very skillful, ubaya, okay? And so practice generosity doesn't mean just give away, but it requires the skillful means. You have to be very skillfully and very carefully and right accordingly and suitably. You need to do it. I talked about it earlier before one of the classes, and in the case of the Ayadeva, the Indian Buddhist master Ayadeva. So he is very eminent, great master, and somebody approached him, asked him to give his one of his the eye faculty, right, eyeball, and asked for donation. So Ayadeva gave it away, donated. But then that person didn't use it, he just smashed it, right? And then Ayadeva saw it, oh, what a pity, if I knew he is not going to use it, and I should not give it, right? At that point, and so And because this sense of miserly, sense of attachment to its mind, right? And and then, yeah, as according to the Buddhist literature, Ayadeva was not able to regain his the faculty. It is supposedly, according to literature, if you're absolutely and attachment free, you will give away your eyeballs or some other limbs, and they will grow back, just like the tree and the fruits. Once you take it from the tree, will grow back. So in the case of Ayadeva, it didn't happen. It's because Ayadeva still have a slight attachment to his possessions. And so I guess the most important thing is that when you see homeless or somebody who is needy and who is kind of living in conditions which is kind of poor and not good, not better than you, or doing not well as you, here's the thing, most important thing, I guess, is either you decide to give and you try your best to give and help out that person or not. In any case, do not look down him. Okay, do not with the sense of I can do it. That's poor man. What a pity. Don't have the you must not have this sense of I am greater, I'm bigger, I'm powerful, I'm better than him, and he's poor, so therefore I'm doing it. That sense of recognition is wrong. So even if you, with this sense, even if you give a huge amount of money or food, or you provide shelter, anything, that's not really the form of generosity we talk about. Why? Because now here you have this self-pride, and you are not necessarily really respect that person and not genuinely and want to help out. You do it because you want to prove that you are better and you are powerful and you are someone else, right? We have to remember that anyone who is homeless or who is wandering around the street, or at the time when you see that person is seems very doing not good at all, not well at all, and having tremendous difficulties. We must remember that person to end up there is just not in that very moment. Right? That person end up in such a condition. There's so much factors, so much things occurred prior to you met him. Maybe he had a broken marriage. Maybe he lost his job. Maybe he was engaged in the drug, right, and problems. Maybe he had some kind of legal lawsuit and lost everything. And maybe he made a huge mistake or had a huge health crisis, and then end up not affordable to do anything. They end up as become homeless, right? So the many things happen. But essentially, that person before, just like you, doing very well, very successful, very good. But because of the instance, then he end up like the one you saw. So therefore, you have no reason to look down him, thinking you are superior. And so this is yes, very critical. And you must also, in the deep sense, from Buddhist point of view, even he looks poor now, but his Buddha nature is within him, right? He still belongs to the families of enlightened being, and he has great potential to be a Buddha himself one day. And so the bottom line is, I'm saying that so up until here, there's wonderful ideas, statements, and beautiful pictures about generosity Bodhisattva's deeds. We have to be realistic. Okay, this is my opinion, right? And so if we do everything like what the sutra says and Buddhist literature suggests, I'm afraid we cannot really make it very successful and sustainable, right? So we have to do it is based on the careful assessments of our own ability, our conditions, and then according to the best of our knowledge, according to the person to whom you're going to offer any assistance, money, shelter, medicine, and education or knowledge, or whatever you're going to give. You must assess that person, knowing that person's background very carefully. Okay? So to know that person's background and then giving and make a decision is very, very critical. Because very often you find somebody is very poor and looks terrible, and you want to give them money, which is a good deed. However, remember that person might going to take your money and the next moment right away going to buy the drugs, right? And then end up to use the drug again. And so in that sense that you are not really helping. And so what is really the helpful and genuine and truly be a generous person? I guess the only way to measure it is the best upon how well you know the person's background and how well you understand the conditions of that person. And I think knowing the background of the person or have as much as possible the knowledge about the person and then decide how you're going to help and how much you're going to give it is critical. So this is my personal understanding of generosity. And in Tibetan, we often say that humility and so which means taking advice from others, but make a decision for yourself.
Homeless 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 mi chadan do to ge basoji yut ang tang boris.
So in any case, though, either from country or at the individual level, our practice of generosity should never end up to create a lazy people who become homeless because of laziness, and because your generosity and they're stopping working, stopping and support themselves. So either at the national level or individual level, we must the best way help those the generosity is help those individuals be able to equip themselves and to become self-sufficient and self-supported.
Seems so.
Any other people has any questions? Because this young girl has another question.
Okay, follow-up question. So but I thought generosity is like you don't have attachment when you give stuff, right? So I guess overall, I understand realistically that we should be promoting, but technically by itself, like if I give $1, if I give you a piece of bread, it's not my bread anymore, right? So it's your bread now. So how can I have the right to be like, oh, you didn't eat my bread? Isn't that the opposite of what generosity is? Pesana mi jutsu ni bundu podikai sheyla sana macha mi jutsu peshetegi jobayo bidi kai sana takon tu peshetena kuntu thamana kunya du de semte yorwa ya wish na mi tete bi jela tang ni pesha marwa kro so basically, like for example, a lot of times with homelessness, if you give them $1, right? People are like, oh, but if I give them money, like they're gonna buy drugs or something like that. But technically, if I give them the $1, it's not my dollar anymore, right? I gave it to them, so it's their decision what they want to do with it. Sorry.
That's a son of the layer marwa. That you touch us on that Pajuti Karachina. They corona Rangamato, getting in the chip home the country, that California, as young marwa. To a Yakarina, so on the Corona Tango, that Tango, Satango, and the Taxado Tony, Tango chatting around the Jagio, the Coron, the Digichet in that game, will the Digi in that, such a genie. 결혼을 갖고 용화 알기 용화 안에 지금 때리 용화 안에 저런 타만하고 대다 때리가 말을 붙여라 먼저가 땡이 레와자기 요지니 딱고 싸우지 때잖아 나 파죽 때 가르치는 데 소소리 당선이 저 당살 때고 배주가 당나다 탑시오 말 이나 가로도 꼴찌기가 양지 지니 시오지 집아 당기지니 미망볼라 때리지 로지 올서 다 때리가 양 홈레스로 망보 차이나 깔리카고 참아 로지 되고 말에 어느 아주 요바 참아 매바 차로 그랬더니 아주 소소랑 이 정도 롱바 코롱페 큰서 차로 는 약금도 그런 좀 지도 말와 어디 저띠 장나 만들어지 미팅 모니터는 강가 차이도 모니터 코 모이니 강가 차이도나 딱고 로지고 그래 아주 미팅이 야 랑트 뭐 에 코랑 내가 진도 매야지 코랑 다 냐사도 있잖아 때 코랑 내가 지금 정보를 맞고 때 아주 장나 던 좀 도도 뜻이고
Yeah, so the key is that your action of generosity should not make the person to be lazier or spoiled. Okay? And so you have to know that person, the purpose of your giving. For example, so even you met somebody on the street and you see his situation to the best of your knowledge, your assessment. You decide to want to give $1 or so, and or more, give it to that person. But you must emphasize that person, right? Say this donation given to you for the purpose of this and that. Maybe you need a brief interview, or and find out what's really going on, and you give. But at the same time, you sincerely say, "I wish you get over this problem and soon." Right, and overcome whatever problems you are, and so you give, and but you have to make the person clearly know your intention. Yes, what Dan Chito said is right. Once you give away, that's not your money anymore. But prior to giving, and then you still have control, and at least you can express sincerely, right, and your intentions of the way you wanted to help out, right. And that's you can do. And so, like I said before, the way of it, we practice our generosity must not end up with we have more homeless and or more lazy people, and but rather our generosity is as a means to help those homeless become own something, at least to find a job and become a self-support and self-sufficient. That's our goal of generosity.
Oh yeah, time but today.
Also,
야, 달라면 좋고. 야, 나도 정말 대문지. 야, 집소 집만 맡은 되어지고로. 아버님들 같이 내는데 저런 틀라든지 아버님들 자체 무조건 틀라 뛰었지. 때 토마스랑 같이 같이 상관을 지고로.
Also,
야. 나는 뭘로?
담바른 chen 초기 마죠 자장양 벌저위 손된 냥지 제보 여러 조바이 데데데 사월시벌소 세제 야외 마숑천레 라저 상저 랑지르미장 타도 난지 유라 헐더샤 야윈 자바론 드 종지르지 상저 빈텐 젠드시장 가진 세시무담마만 세르건데 야윈아바이 단단단저버마저지 강제다반조나지조지 저전라조바대이지 대대남기 따드조시장 자시양조 쇼근 차별지 사회라마름보지 답변인걸밤에 당시가 같은 전보군이 지송대 그송트지미 안드소 상주 선조름보지 마지와는 지저지 개와 냠밤에 버영 공내 공도 배월소 구르위 성간저 판당 대화 마리 종위니
제르세와 덴젠 야소이 샤베 선제 바도 덴주지 잠보
바우 저들
전보당 공도 상보
대양 대신 대다 근제 제서 나로 양대와 대다 담주럽등고 대순 샤비 야와 담주진와 강라
초도 아바데 당시
제기위 사와드 근정
당고 주시라도 모월지 벤데 종리
담바 더상이
덴젠 지wo 당제
고
고강사도 제고라
아들지 종위니 상지 담바 당도 이르지 세르고 근데 야와 종카위
비조시니는 무소 잡에도
야외 앞에 나상 대니리 같이
비주
자양
자양도 벌마주지
老手怎么这是嘞呀？